I couldn't even write them down. So I was like, Lord, you have to use me. Let the questions come as it flow, like spring water. Let them just flow to me, and I'll just pop them out to you. But one of the next questions I
Sure.
got is that when did you started doing the DJing thing? How did that come about?
Oh, wow. That's a good question. I got inspired to be a DJ at a young age. I didn't really officially start DJing until I got into like high school and and starting college. But I was really influenced by listening to the radio. I was that kid that would have the cassette tape, and I would have my
Oh,
Walkman recorder,
old
or I
school
have
there.
my little boombox recorder,
Oh yeah,
and I have the boombox on record, but on pause, and listening to the favorite stations, like the radio stations that we had, in our area, like in North Carolina and stuff. And I would just like listen to the local radio personalities, and they would like introduce like some of the hottest, like, hip hop, R&B
yeah.
songs that were out during the 90s and stuff. And I would just press record and record the live DJs. I record the station imaging, all those things, because I had a passion for it. And I had a passion for, like, I had some friends who were in New York, so they used to send me cassette tapes of DJ Mr. Magic and DJ Marley Marl.
I remember
And we
those
would
guys.
listen to Mr. Magic, and we would listen to shows like the Rap Attack, Cool
Yeah,
DJ
yeah,
Red Alert,
yeah.
um, and there were so many others who were on radio during in New York, like on it was the WBLS, and
Yeah.
then it was 98.7 Kiss FM at the
Kiss
time.
FM.
When that station used to be around, and so we used to get, and then of course Hot 97.
Yeah, of
We used to
course.
get Fort Master Flex mixes, and DJ Kid Capri, and DJ Clue. So I was inspired by a lot of those DJs at the time when I was growing up. And then, of course, like when I got into high school and stuff, I used to kind of go to the little house parties and start like working on the turntables with one of my friends. And we used to, just have fun and playing around with those things at the time. We didn't know what we were doing.
Oh, okay. On the top,
Yeah.
on top of that, like I say, first of all, then how did you got the name DJ Jesus Beats?
Okay, that would happen in 2006. I had just got the Marine Corps in 2006 in June or July. I think it was July. I can't remember. I think it was July. And I applied for a job here in the county, which ended up being, working for border registration. So when I got hired for the job, there was this young guy who was at the job with me, and he was we were all hired at the same time at campus because they were getting prepared for another a November election. So this young guy was by the computer. He kept playing these instrumentals, and they just kept sounding like like just regular beats and stuff. So
Right.
long story short, he was a Christian rapper, and his name was Survivor. So he led me to Christ, and then
Awesome.
afterwards, not the same day, but it took weeks later, I got saved, and then it was actually about almost like a year later, 2007, I got inspired by watching another artist out of Savannah, Zion and Molly Doomsday. At the time, they were like no-name artists, and they performed this song. And I went home and did a mixtape that night, prayed about it, and then I heard Lecrae's song. Lecrae just came out with this song called Jesus Music off of his second
Oh yeah, that
album,
was hot.
After
That was
Music
hot.
Stop, which featured Triple E.
Yeah,
So there's this part in the song that said, "I be bumping them Jesus beats,"
yeah.
and that's where I kept repeating it, replaying it over, and I just asked the Lord, "Lord, so that's your name?" So that's where I came up with DJ Jesus beats. So,
Okay. On top of that, didn't you you worked in radio? You started working in radio after you started going around DJing, right?
yes, I worked in radio back in my college days at Fort Valley State University. And then, of course, I started doing like the gospel radio when after I got saved, we had a local gospel station here in Beaufort, South Carolina, and that's where I actually started. I was the engineer, and I had another guy named Derek White. His name is D White, and he was from Columbia, so he was coming down to do the show. He was the main voice, but then some things happened where he couldn't come down anymore, so I ended up being engineer slash radio personality slash radio show host. And from there, that's where I started getting my big break into doing radio.
Right, because I was reading through your bio and I saw, I think it was West Coast. What was it? West Coast Fire?
Yeah,
What's
West
that?
Coast Fire. West Coast Fire. West Coast Fire started off as a music site. It was pretty much similar to Rapzilla, and it was also similar to another website that went, that used to be out today called thesouth.com. And these sites were always covering Christian hip hop.
Right.
And so West Coast Fire was started on in the Bay Area, and I was the only representative from the East Coast. We would, one of my guys named Paul, we call him P-Dub for short, and him and another guy named Gil and Sid, they were the ones that formed West Coast Fire. So they would give a lot of content on Christian hip hop news, music. They even went on as far as talking about pop and everything else like that. And they had a radio station that came along with it, which was called West Coast Fire Radio. And from there, they were like, hey, we don't have time to maintain a radio station. So they gave me, West Coast Fire Radio. And within the several months, we changed the name from West Coast Fire Radio to Hot 316 Radio.
Yeah. And another thing about that, Hot 316, now tell us about that. I know that's in Buford, right? But how did that kicked off?
Yeah.
I mean, how did that got going?
Well, that's pretty much from West Coast Fire Radio. We sat at with the whole committee. We sat down and said, hey, look, let's change the name from West Coast Fire Radio to another new name. So we prayed on it, and in my mind, I'd always had the name Hot in the title name because Hot is like for like hip hop music. We always you got Hot 97, you got Hot 107.9, and all these other stations that's terrestrial. But
right.
So they came and said, hey, what about 316, John 3:16? Because that is the universal scripture that everybody kind of knows.
Right.
So we said, hey, let's name it Hot 316. And Hot 316 was born almost six and a half years ago. And that's how we came up with the concept, and just kind of kept the station growing from there. We're playing, Christian hip hop and urban gospel content.
What the team? You have a committee, right? That you established to do all of this, like the shows and the various programming. Do you have a team? It's not DJ Jesus B's all by himself, is it?
Oh, it's solo dolo.
So you're it. You are Hot 316. Yeah. Pretty much.
Pretty much. And but there's a lot of other radio entities that are in the same boat. Like as far as internet radio.
Yes,
a lot of us.
I can relate.
Yeah, and it's a lot of work, but it was trial and error through the most part of 6.5 years of trying to figure out how to do the radio formula, but it's not easy.
Yeah. Well, another thing I got to ask you is, like, do you have what would be the advice? Do you have a formal relationship with artists and getting music for the station, or and programs you have to do by email, reach out and request to have a certain person to do their show on your station, and you review it. Is it very important to do that? I mean, is that the way you did? You just request, send an email out to the artists and say, hey, could you please send me your music? Or there was another, there's another formality, a way of going about doing it, or is that the only way of doing it? As far as you being a radio personality and all, got your own radio station, is that the only way of doing it, or there's several ways of doing it?
It's a combination of many of the things that you were saying. But the most effective way for me was I should night everybody. So I was like, I'll hold them from the rails and say, hey, look, you're going to sign. My office hours are from 9 to 5, and then make them sign those 360 deals, and then bully them all the time. No, I'm just messing with. No, but to answer your question, it's a combination of everything. Where a lot of times the station has because of creating a good radio formula for music, I'll get approached from a lot of artists that they would hit me up because we were tagging the music and as far as what was being played on Twitter, and then a lot of times I'll reach out to independent artists and just hey let them introduce myself and see if they're able to send me the single or the song that we're looking for that I kind of like, and I build relationships. So I'll reach out to artists and build a friendship with them beyond just the music, and they start servicing, building a friendship with the labels. And a lot of times it's just for me to show my face in a lot of the events and music seminars and festivals and stuff like that, like going to the Stellar Awards, going to the Dove Awards, going to the Essence Music Festivals and all these other places where gospel artists and Christian artists and everybody else will kind of mingle out. And then you can find more information, like going meeting with RC Inspiration or even like Capitol Records.
So basically, it's more than just being the man behind the scenes. You have to get out in the public eye and kind of do a little legwork sometimes, right?
Yes, you do. You have to do a lot of legwork because it's not about what you know, it's who you know. And that goes for any line of work. But you have to go out there and make friends and meet and greet and really, just kind of sit down and have those conversations with a lot of people. Because a lot of times, if you just sit behind the studio and just expecting everybody just to come to you, it's not going to happen unless you build your brand, you build your name, you build a credibility where people are like, wow, I need to go in there and work with this person.
Yeah, because we're talking with a man. How many years you been doing this?
For radio, for like Christian radio, it's almost been roughly about 7 years. Actually, almost close to 6. They're asking about 7 years, but like 6 and some change. So it's been trial and error, and it's been a lot of just learning, just kind of picking the brains of other well-known program directors, even meeting with other radio station communications companies, like let's say for example iHeartRadio, Urban One, Cumulus. Sit down with some of the people that I have relationships with, and they won't give me all the answers, which I don't expect them to. But what they do is they give me breadcrumbs. And because I have a relationship with them, they'll give me breadcrumbs and try to, say, hey, I will give you this little bit of information, and I want to see what you can do with it. And then you come back, I'll give you more. And that's how those relationships have blossomed me into learning about radio, because I went and did the research myself.
Right. And now that you gained pretty much, I'll say, a good overwhelming amount of knowledge now concerning radio. I know you always can learn, little nuggets here and there about radio and all, but what would be the don'ts? Yeah. Is there any don'ts when it comes to being a radio personality or DJ?
Let's see. For being a radio personality,
yes.
The don'ts are I guess that's a good question. You kind of stumped me right there.
Hey, I'm good. Hey, Rod. I'm good, man. Praise the Lord.
I think the don'ts are. Some of the don'ts are don't expect to be, if we're internet radio, if you're doing internet radio, don't expect it to be the number one source where people are going to check your station out at, because honesty is just like FM radio is still the dominant part of where people get the music from. Yeah, the streaming services are there too, but when people are getting their vehicles and cars, they're going to turn on the FM radio first before they try to hook up their cell phone to a Bluetooth device to listen to Spotify or Apple Music or whatever they're listening to.
Right, that's true.
If they have, if they got a cross-trek country, they're going an hour or 2 hours out. Yeah, they'll connect their phone and listen to, Pandora radio or whatever. But they're more likely going to listen to FM radio. They'll switch between stations and stuff like that. But for internet radio, you have to. The other don't is to don't look at your station as thinking that you're going to get all these listeners. You will get some listeners and support, but you got to make sure that your station is well rounded. It can't be just a whole bunch of different genres of music clashing with one another. You really have to be, structured in your music as far as keeping your listeners, listening to your station, because, people have a short attention span. So the average listener might listen 5 to 15 minutes on your station and go find somewhere else to go listen to.
That is true. Yeah, because you got those peak times where they come in, and then you got those times those days that it's pretty low. Yeah, so it's like the Dow Jones,
exactly.
kind of hit and miss type of thing.
Exactly.
But
the biggest listenership is during the wintertime, because people are, that's when artists and everybody are just relaxing, they're spending time with family.